There we go. The recording is now on. Thank you very much. Unknown, I'm afraid I don't know your name because you've come up as unknown, but perhaps if you'd like to say your name in the chat, you can do. Let's make a start. So today's session is about Google Slides. All the other sessions we've done today have been pretty agnostic. You can do them on any platform or any device. What I'm going to show you today is really an activity that's designed to using Google Slides. If you don't have Google Slides, you can do some of this in PowerPoint, but it's particularly slides based in terms of it relies on some of the features of slides. If you don't have slides, you can access it for free. You can use it for education. Thanks, Maria. But this session is absolutely slides based, I'm afraid. So hopefully, if you don't have slides, you can adapt it or you can get slides later. First thing I need to do is absolutely express my thanks and admiration and appreciation for the Lebanon volunteer community who have invited myself and my colleagues today to meet with you. It's wonderful to be with you and to be listening to you and learning from you in the chat, and to have had your participation so far today. I hope it's been as good an experience for you as it has been for all of us. So very much thanks to the volunteer community for putting this all together. We've got an hour, and what I'm going to do with you in the next hour is talk to you a little bit about why this might be a good thing to do, why it might be helpful. I'm guessing that since you've chosen to come to this session, you've got some thoughts already about how you could do this, or maybe are doing it already. Then I'm going to spend a bit of time in Google Slides showing you a couple of things you can do there that make this really powerful for learning. And I'm going to talk specifically about how you could set this up as an activity so that it's fluent and easy for you to manage as a teacher and effective for students. And I'm going to finish with a bit of time for Q&A. Hopefully we might get a bit of time in the middle for you just to sort of do some of this yourself in a hands-on way and get a bit of practice, but we'll see how we go for time. Introducing myself, some of you have heard this a couple of times already. You've been in other sessions with me, but my name's Laura. I'm a secondary school teacher, so I teach 11 to 18-year-olds in the UK. I teach mostly religious studies and philosophy, but I'm also the lead for a subject we call PHSE, which is personal health and social education, which covers what you might term social and emotional learning. And we look at questions of well-being, we look at managing your mental health, we look at dealing with anxiety and pressure. So that was really the kind of basis for this session that I'm offering. This is something that I've used with my students over time and they have found helpful. And it's given me some insights into how they're working and how to help them. So I thought it might be something that you might be able to apply in your context where your students have lots on their plate, lot to deal with. I'm currently doing a PhD in digital education and thinking, looking at how children learn online and how teachers teach. So I kind of come at this from the practical, experiential perspective, but also have an academic thought process going on in the background about why things might work. I'm always happy to connect over Twitter. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's my Twitter address. And if you have a question in 6 months' time and you think, oh gosh, I wonder, by all means, fire that question at me across Twitter. It's a really great way to make a bookmark in your mind for people who are interested in this stuff and who like talking about it. So do by all means grab me on Twitter. I'm at Think Teach Tech. Okay, so why is this a good thing to do? Well, personally, my experience of working with students and also with doing some reading about reflection is that it's a very powerful tool for processing. And we know that young people, just with COVID alone, they are finding it difficult to process because it's a new experience for all of us. It can be traumatic. There's a lot going on in terms of, so many of our students are bereaved. Your students in your context have specific issues of trauma and things going on for them with their mental health and well-being. So making a space to process, to think, to make sense of the world, to make sense of your place in the world can be a really powerful thing. I also think that with journaling, it allows us to access our creativity, and certainly there's been some research into anxiety in young people that particularly creative processes can help them to exercise some of that energy and express themselves. be more aware of their feelings, be more aware of their progress. So that creative aspect is really important. And above all, it's just time and space to think. If you can create space for your students to think and be reflective, you're going to set them up with a coping skill that will be valuable for them for their whole life. So I personally have found this great to do with students, and students have responded really well to it. Why use Google Slides for this? Well, what Slides does in the journaling aspect is it provides a structure. So each little square, each slide can be a task, can be a question. Whereas in something like Docs or Word, you've got this kind of never-ending scroll of stream of stuff. Slides becomes like a page which you can turn. So it helps with that sense of experiencing something, acknowledging it, and moving it into the past tense. That's why I like Slides for this kind of activity. Slides is also very structured. Even though it's a digital tool, students can incorporate video, they can do physical real-world artwork and take photographs and import that, and then add digital layers onto their artwork if they wish to. They can do handwritten stuff and again bring that in as an image-based. So it's really versatile as a kind of content holder. Google Slides has an offline working option, which sometimes people don't know about. And again, if students have unreliable Wi-Fi, if they have issues of access or equity, they can go somewhere where they've got free Wi-Fi and open up the task and then toggle offline work. And that means the work is then saved on their device, and then the next time they're back anywhere with Wi-Fi, doing anything with Wi-Fi, that work will upload automatically. So that offline mode is a really, really helpful feature in Slides, which I think is useful if you're in a situation where not everyone's got equal access to Wi-Fi. And I also think that Slides gives us the really nice options for feedback and sharing. When I set this up initially with my students, as well as sharing their journal with me, they also shared the journal with the head of year and with a parent. So it became a really nice sort of supportive structure around the student for what was going on. And it meant that it wasn't entirely kind of just a one-way channel between the student and the teacher. So you've got lots of flexibility in Slides, and I'll try and get through those today and show you most of them and how that looks. Okay, so before we start, we've got to think a little bit about content structure and how we're going to manage it. Can I just get a little answer in the chat? If you have Google Classroom, can I have a Y or an N? Yes for Google Classroom, no for no Classroom. So that will change how I show you and what I show you to do with it. One N. Okay, it's got a mixture. That's fine. I'll show you both. So there's different ways to do it. Okay, so let's come out of the presentation and just start with Drive. So if I'm just working in Drive and I don't have Classroom, I mean, if you have Drive, you can set up Classroom, and you can set up Classroom on an account that isn't a school account, but we have to really think about protecting our pupils and safeguarding and well-being. This should be done in a school account, not in a personal account shared with your personal account. We want to make sure we're looking after everybody and making it straightforward. If you just wanted to do it in Drive, I would literally make a folder. I'd call it reflective logs or reflective writing. There it is. If you're so inclined, you can change the color of your folders. It depends how geeky you are. And then once I'm inside this folder, I might just start off by sharing that whole folder, maybe with a pastoral lead or something like that in your school, somebody who has a wider responsibility for student well-being. then I don't have to share every single file separately because it's in that folder. I'm going to share that with Andrew. I'm going to say, here are the year 10 reflective logs. What that means is any file that's in that folder is accessible to that pastoral lead. So I don't have to manually share each individual file. Any file now that I make in this space is automatically shared with him. I could also use shared drives if I wanted to. So once I've got that folder, I need to make my template. So that's how I'm going to work. I'm going to make a template, which I'm going to share out with my students. So I can do that here, new slides. Because I'm already in that folder, if I make it here, it goes into that shared folder. So that means it's automatically going to me and whoever else that folder has. And then once I've made that individual presentation, I can share it individually with that student as well. So that's one way to work if you don't have Classroom. So let's imagine that Jess, who's also one of the Canopy trainers on the call today, is the student in this setting. And it's going. Sorry, I've missed a step. I have to name it before sharing. Let's imagine this is Jess's log. Jess's reflective log. Change it here. It should change here automatically. There we go. And now I'm going to share that with Jess individually. When I share, I'm just making sure about who's got editing and so forth rights. So hypothetically, I could then have a whole list here. So once I've made my template, I could just duplicate, actually before I share it, sorry, make the template, duplicate the templates, rename them, share them with each student. And that's a way of working around this if we don't have Classroom. If we have Classroom, it's much, much easier. But I know that not everybody does, so I wanted to show you how you could make that work if you didn't have it. The beauty of this now is that when Jess adds to it, I can see it because she's got editing rights, so I can see it and comment and so forth. So that's just the kind of logistics of making a workspace that's shared. If you've got Classroom, you have some more options. I don't have a demo class set up for you guys yet, but I can do that now. When I share it in Classroom, I need to use the function that says copy for each student. Those of you who are familiar with Classroom will know that one. And what happens there is that work stays live in a feedback interface, which I'll show you in a second. So that's my sharing mechanism. I can either have a folder in Drive where I'm sharing the individual file with the individual student, but potentially the whole file with somebody else, or I can do it here in Classroom by creating an assignment, adding, in this case, not Jess's log, but a blank log. Let's make a copy in here. Go back to that folder. Let's just add a new one in that folder. I'm going to talk in a moment or two about how to make the template, but I just wanted to sort of get clear about how you'd start off with sharing. Oh, that wasn't what I was after. But here in Classroom, in the assignment, I can just add a blank document there. But in this case, I'm going to have wanted to create that template first, because the template creation is important. And that's what we'll get to in a tick. But I can just pop it in from Drive here, template. And here I can tick copy for each student. And that will create an interface with a copy of that for each student in the class that I can easily tick through and comment on. So Classroom does make this a bit easier, but if you haven't got Classroom, you can still do it. Okay, let's go back to the practicalities of slides. let's imagine I want to create a template, which I will then do copy for each from Classroom or manually copy for my students. So in slides, go slides.new. I'll create a blank slides presentation for me. There we go. I'm going to call this journal template. And this is going to be the foundation. I'm going to make this in such a way that it's attractive for students, that it's easily editable, and that it contains all that content. So first thing I want to do is show you a couple of extra resources that you can use with Google Slides, which are helpful. So rather than using these themes here, I might actually use a site called Canva. I don't know if any of you have used Canva. Can I have a yes or no for Canva in the chat? Canva. Okay, lovely. Thank you, Carol. So Canva is a design-based website. Again, it's free for education. I just made an account for this just yesterday. Here we go. So it's a nice tool to use with students as well, and you can integrate this with your classroom page. But what you've got is a lot of nice templates that you can, and graphics that you can pick. So I literally yesterday just searched reflection. And I can find really high quality graphics like this, which I can import into my slides deck really well. Oh, great. Quite a few of you are familiar with Canva already. That's fabulous. Let's say that I think this is a really nice thing and I want to add it to the slide template for my students. I can just open it up, and I can also design my own, add my own quotations. So it'd be really nice to have content in the language of your students, or content from your students' culture. But let's say I think this is good. I'm just going to click this download button here, download it. I can choose what selection I want. To be honest, to bring it into PowerPoint, to bring it into slides, it doesn't really matter. Have that. Yeah, thank you. And it's just there on my downloads bar at the bottom. And what I can do when that's finished loading is just take it and drop it onto that slide. And it will create a really nice kind of high quality image for me. And then I can match the background. But what I'm more inclined to do here, if I look at the slide master, is change the slide master. So by doing that, what happens is that is then in the background of every slide. It's in the background. So it's not movable, or students aren't going to, it's not going to get in their way. They can add content on top of it very easily, and it's not going to tinker about with it. So if I do that, when I add new slides, and I select the slide that I want to add is from the master, that one, it's there, but it's behind the text. Can you see that? It's not going to slip around and move. So changing the master in the slides is a useful thing to know how to do. It's also nice if you're going to use templates from other places. So Canva has some really nice things which you could use as prompts for particular tasks or activities you want students to do. I've got an example here. This is one I made a little while ago for my own students in 2018 by the look of it. And this was entirely made with content from Canva. If I just zoom in a bit, you can see it. So I did them a journal and a workbook. So they had a nice cover page, a spot for them to put their own writing into, some instructions, some aims for the course we were talking about. And then just as you can see, I've done there some prompts for them to write and think about. So I structured this around the themes of the work we were doing. So for each theme, they had a prompt and then a bit of a time and space for them to add their own content over the top. So just by using Canva, taking those images out, popping them into Google Slides, I've created a structure for reflection, which is easy for students to see and add to. And in this case, I think I had a little bit of extra space just for them to add other things, other photos, other ideas. And then we went on to the next illustration. That's only a sort of worked example of one that I did with students, and they responded really well to. Something that it's closed for 2 minutes, often works quite nicely is actually to change the format. So in slides, obviously naturally it comes up in this landscape format, but you can change the size of the slides to make them A4, which sometimes students prefer. So you can just put in the specific size that you want. I can never remember what size A4 is. Oh, it's the other way around. But in there, if you just drop in the A4 size in the page setup, this is another really simple thing to do. You can do with the workbooks as well for students working academically. 210 by 297. Ah, that's unhelpful. Okay. What you can see now then changes the format of that document. So it then becomes really easy to add a text box or do whatever else you want to it with it. So Canva is a really nice tool, and you can bring it out of Canva in all different formats and apply those formats. If you look at presentations in Canva, you download those and you upload them, you can have the whole presentation from a presentation in Canva. Another really nice tool that I like to use with Google Slides is a tool called Unsplash. So within Google Slides, you can add something called Addons. These are little extensions, little extras that do nice things. So if you click the Get Addons button, it will pop open all these different add-ons that you can use. And if you add the Unsplash add-on, these are all free. You get high quality, beautiful pictures for slides. And you can also use them in your Google Docs as well. And what I have done in the past is shown students how to do this, so they are able to select from a wide range of beautiful, appropriate images too. There are a number of different image-based add-ons, but Unsplash is my favorite. So now I've installed Unsplash. You can see the process I've gone through. If I go into add-ons, you see how it now then appears unsplashed images, and I can insert an Unsplash photo. I get this sidebar will appear, and I can search in Unsplash for different themes. Let's say I want to look at, I don't know, mountains. I can just drop that image on top. And students really like this kind of high quality, very visual, graphic way of talking about things. So that is a quick tour of Unsplash and Canva. And we've talked about rotating the slides to A4, just making sure I've hit off the things that I wanted to show you. Yeah, okay, so what I think is helpful to do, I'll just take this slide out for a minute, is to create some expectations and to create structure. So what you might want to do here is insert a title page with chapters. Excuse my terrible typing. So we could talk about chapter 1, 2, 3. Again, with my terrible typing, but in the interest of speed, I probably won't necessarily go fix everything. Oh, I should. It's annoying if I don't, isn't it? Now, what you can do in Unsplash, in slides, let's say we've got, I don't know, actually make these individual slides links. So when you're coming to look at new content in here, if you know the student is working currently in chapter 3, if they've hyperlinked slides in this presentation, let's say that's slide 4. And again, if you do this in the template and you show students how to do it, it's just another way of having that structure within the work that you're doing. That when you come in to look at this slide deck, it's a bad example because the image is the same, but you can jump straight to the relevant section of the slide deck from the title page. So we can make it pretty. First of all, we make it practical, right? We should put it in a sensible place and we distribute it in a sensible way. And then we can make it pretty. So we've got a really nice looking, appealing space with writing prompts, with instructions, with a clear structure that we can see and access. Let's imagine that this has student work in it. If I'm in Classroom and I've issued it through here, obviously if I have students in here, I'll see their work here and I can mark it through the Classroom marking interface, which is straightforward. If I don't have that, I've got a couple of different ways to do things. Let's imagine that this is, a particular individual's work. I can comment by video. So those of you who were in the first session this morning, we talked about using a tool called Screencastify. What that allows me to do is to have the student work open and just to use a little video recording tool here. And if you pop back and pick up the video from the first session, it's only 20 minutes long. It'll talk you through installing this application. It's completely free and how to use it. What that lets me do, it layers over a little video over the page, and I can talk to the student without having to type a lot of things, saying, hey Maria, this is a really lovely journal entry. I really like the way you've described this. It's a great selection of images. Keep up the good work. And it creates a little video. So it records everything I'm doing on the screen, the mouse movement, I can highlight, I can draw, I can isolate, I can pick things up. And I can grab that link and come back to the journal and I can add a comment. If I say plus whoever this one is, Jess will get an email. And I can paste that link to that feedback into that comment and assign it. Now, I won't do that now because Jess is presenting and I don't want her to get a pop-up, but you get the idea that it's a really easy way to give very human, very hopefully warm, personal feedback to an individual that you're working with, where they know you're attending to it, you're listening, you're reading, you're seeing what they're doing. Okay, let's go back to the initial slides. So we've talked about the importance of thinking about how we're going to share it. We've talked about working offline. So in this template here, in the file option, I can select make available offline in the file itself. And that means that if I'm out of Access, I can still make changes, I can still add content. When I come back to Access, that content can be uploaded automatically. So that's now ready to go for offline. And these are things you'd show your students how to do for themselves. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute breather. I'm going to put a timer on for you to go and open up slides and think about what kind of content you might like to have. Actually, let's do it in the chat first. So in the chat here, what I'm going to do with you is an activity I call Chat Waterfall. What I would like is everybody to think about what they're going to say and type it, but don't press enter. So you're going to type an answer, and then when I say 3, 2, 1, waterfall, I'm going to press return, and we'll see all those answers coming into the chat together. So everyone has time to think about it. No pressure. So what I'm looking for is elements that you think might be helpful to include in a journal. So I'm going to give you a minute to think, and then we'll go to a waterfall. And what do you think would be useful to put in a journal template for your students? I'll type the question. And you can start typing your answer, but don't press return. Okay, I'm going to ask for your responses. So 3, 2, 1, waterfall. Oh, lovely, loads of great ideas there. Yes, demos is a great idea. Integration with other units, learners and engaging. Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any other responses popping in? I know that the weather isn't great for you this morning and that the Wi-Fi is intermittent. So if you can't contribute, I totally understand. It's no pressure at all. Yes. Oh, nice. So you could put GIFs in. Absolutely. So you can insert GIFs into Google Slides or animations. It's a brilliant idea. I like that one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is pop you on a 5-minute break to have a try to open up a slide deck and start seeing what you might want to explore. If you don't know how to do this, you can insert video in Google Slides as a countdown timer. So let's try 6-minute timer. Calm and relaxing music sounds good. Let's try that. Okay, so for those of you watching on YouTube later, you can fast forward the video for 6 minutes from this point so that you don't sit here watching a screen for 6 minutes. But people who are here in the workshop, what I'd like you to do, and I'll put it in the chat, is open Google Slides and start thinking about a structure. How do you want the slides to look? What instructions might you kind of put together on that first slide? I don't think you'll probably have time to bring any visuals in, but if you want to start thinking about how that might look, go ahead. I'm going to give you 6 minutes on the timer to go and have a little play and get hands-on, because I think this time to practice is really important. So if you don't have Google Slides, you can do this in PowerPoint, but the sharing is different. So see how that feels. Okay. Off you go practice. I'm going to turn my camera off for a minute. Okay, hopefully you've mostly had an opportunity to have a little play and start thinking practically about what you want to include. Let's make that pause. Anyone want to give us any feedback in the chat about how that's working, how that feels? Any questions that come up? Because I think often when you think about the abstract, that's fine. Then you start to make it, that's when questions start to come up. Any questions from that first activity? Oops, give it a second now and see how that comes through. Okay. So something that teachers sometimes wonder about, and again, this is most easily done through Classroom, but if you don't have Classroom, it's not a huge problem. Let's imagine we've created our beautiful template and it's full of lovely things. I'm going to assume that we all know how to insert video into slides, and you can insert photo the same way. So if you've got students who've done artwork, obviously they can just insert the image from their photo storage or from their camera. And anything web-based can also be inserted. So I could, let's say I thought that video was a really nice activity, I could insert the video and I could put alongside it maybe some instructions for a simple breathing exercise to help with stress management. All of that's very easy. Let's say I want to add something. So they've already got their template. What's the easiest way for me to add new content? Well, let's say that I want to insert that video that I've just shown with you guys. I'm going to use that insert button. So I've got a new slide deck. I'm just going to make one slide in this slide deck, which is the new slide. Of course, I can't find the nice one. There it is. Okay. Oops. I'm going to insert really simple instructions for a breathing exercise. That's going to be breathe in. I don't know if you guys have come across what's called 4-7 breathing. Breathe in, hold, count of 4, and breathe out, 4, recount of 7. Repeat times 10. Because this is a reflective journal that we're talking about, oh dear. My computer's also on the go slow now. I have those instructions. But what I really want to know is, how does it feel? So I put the instructions that also include a text box. Because what I'm interested in is their response to activities. So this is my, this could be a simple, like, this week's task. All I need to do is I can manually add that to every student's slide, but it's probably more effective if I send this to my students and ask them to copy and paste it into their slide deck. So if I went back to the assignment in Classroom where I'd originally added it, I could edit the assignment. I could add this week's task. And what I'm going to ask students to do is to manually copy that slide into their slide deck. So that's a simple way of dealing with rather than you having to go into each file in the Drive folder and add those slides again, or each file in the Classroom and add those files again. That's a workaround. So you could just keep adding to this assignment. So the original assignment, you've done copy for each. And from there, you're just going to post it one time, and the student's going to add it in to their evolving templates. Hopefully that makes some sense. Let's imagine we're getting something else to think about is our students have made this beautiful piece of work, and they want to take it with them, or we want to share it with somebody, or with the student's permission. From slides, we can export it. So we can download it here, and we can choose a whole range of different formats. But it can be quite nice if you download it as a PDF. You can then put it into an ebook reader, and you can use it as with page turns. And you can start to encourage your students to feel that sense of being an author, being a content creator, and sharing their work with family, with friends, and feeling comfortable in what they've produced. Okay, let's go back to our slides, see how we're getting on. We've talked about making it practical. We've talked about making it attractive. We've had an opportunity to share it. We've talked about taking it into the offline space. Yep. Yeah, so in the UK context, we talk about safeguarding. I'm not sure what your equivalent term would be. I'm sorry, I should know. But safeguarding is about protecting children from harms. I think it's very important if we're setting up an activity like this that we're clear about our expectations as one way of protecting students from harms. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert in dealing with trauma. So this isn't a therapeutic exercise. It's an exercise. So it needs to be boundaried. So I think being clear at the beginning when you set the activity up about what this journal is and isn't for, and who's going to read it and see it. If you are a therapist or a psychologist, or you're trained to work with this kind of thing, then you could obviously use it a bit differently. But being clear about your own capacity to manage this, think about how you structure it in terms of the kind of responses that you're looking for from your students. So safeguarding in the UK is about making sure children aren't exposed to inappropriate things. So part of making a channel like this where you and the student can talk includes having somebody who has an oversight of that to make sure it's safe and appropriate at all times. So that's why I would say adding another person in the school, pastoral person, a head of year, or somebody like that, who has oversight of that content and can dip in and out at any time, and the student is aware of that, helps to keep things on the right footing. If you want to add new slides, again, I've gone through that through Classroom. It's very straightforward. If you don't have Classroom, you could take that slide that we've just created and simply email it to students and ask them to make their own copy to add that to their presentations. In terms of giving feedback, we've talked about commenting, about giving video feedback. I think if it's something quite personal that they're doing, it's nice to give that video feedback. And it's quite quick to do. So if you're working in Classroom, you've got that interface for assignments. You can easily make those videos and add the Drive links, or you can do it in the comments as we've discussed. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left for Q&A, which is really what I hoped for. I'm happy to use that in different ways. So if you have questions, then do fire them away in the chat. If you want to share specific examples of specific queries, or if you want to take a few more minutes to work on your emerging journal template, that's all fine. So I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can either talk or work on our templates or do a bit of both. So what I'd like, please, is